Hello, it's Erica here from Me to You Paper Crafts, coming to you with another Fun Fold Friday video tutorial. And this one is a great card because not only is it a beautiful greeting card to send to somebody, but the recipient actually gets a bookmark along with it. Now, you may have to send some instructions to the recipient because you basically have to slide this piece off. Okay, and here is a corner bookmark. So when you have a book that you're reading, I'll just use my notepad as an example, you can slip that on the corner and there's your little bookmark. Isn't that cute? I got this idea from Jennifer McGuire, and so we're going to make one today. So basically you'll see this is the base of the card. I haven't finished the inside yet, but then I've got this piece on the front and it's got a split down the middle so that you can actually slide the bookmark into that split and that forms the front of your card. Okay, isn't that sweet? So today the stamp set I decided to use is the Way to Goat. I thought I would make kind of a fun one because I absolutely adore this little goat and I think he would be the cutest little bookmark. So we're going to use this Way to Goat, and I've also pulled in Forever Fern because I want to do a fern background on my card, much as I did a floral background on this card. Okay, and I also want to show you how you can actually emboss with dies. I don't know if you can see that, but this is embossed. So rather than it being cut through the cardstock, you simply make an impression. And you actually have to use a foam pad. It's a Sizzix embossing pad for that. Okay, all right, so let's get started. We're also using the squares dies, some of the squares dies to make this card. All of the measurements will be up on my blog for you, so you'll be able to recreate this card. So you can just relax and follow along for now if you like. All right, so I'm going to use a Whisper White card base. This is cut at 4 1/4 by 11, and then I scored it at 5 1/2 to make a center fold at the top like that. All right, and I have chosen to use Pretty Peacock as my alternate colors here. So the first thing we're going to do is stamp a nice background on this card. So I'm going to place, actually I won't do it like this, I'll actually do it like this. I'm going to just place a scrap piece underneath that, and I'm going to pull down my Pretty Peacock ink pad. And the two, now these two stamps are the same, but they're alternate directions. So I think I will use both of those just to create a pattern on my card. So let's put these on a couple of blocks. There we go. And I'm going to do some stamping off techniques as well. So what you do with this is you just ink up your ink pad, and then you're going to stamp on and then stamp again so that you get two different tones of ink. Now, I encourage you to go off the sides of the paper. I think it gives it a lot more visual interest. Like on this one, you see how I've stamped off the sides of the paper. So when you do that, so I'm going to ink this up and I'll just show you. So if I go off the sides of the paper now, so this is full strength, I do want to, well, that one actually just worked out perfectly, so I can stamp this again. So I'll show you just another example. So if I stamp off the paper here, so if I go like this, okay, there's going to be different tones of ink on here because I went over the side of the paper. So you do want to re-ink it again, then stamp it off on your scrap, and then come in again, okay, so that you don't get any lines on your images. So I'll do another full strength here, and I'll do, now I can go off the side here. Okay, now let's pull in this other direction, and I'll do one like that, and then I'll do one like that. Okay, and then I'm going to stamp off the edge maybe here. And then I'll stamp again and then stamp off and do one here. And then let's do a few more here. And maybe one along the bottom like that. It's also cool if you keep rotating your stamp around so that you get different directions, and then you can fill in some of the white spaces here. I'll do a little bit up here, and then I'll stamp off and do a little bit here, and maybe one at this top corner here, like that. Okay, so that's about all the stamping that I want to do for that, so we can set that aside. Now you can, when you're building up these squares in here, you can do whatever dimensions that you want. You can either cut your cardstock in quarters and keep going up a quarter and layer them that way, or you can combine some of your square framelits. So I've done a little bit of both on here. So I actually picked out this framelit. This measures about 2.5 inches. So I cut out 2 plain pieces of cardstock. So one is a front and one is the back of the bookmark piece. So one is on the front, and then you'll see on the back, there's one on the back as well. Okay. So on the front one, I am going to stamp my little goat and let that dry. I mean, the Mento Black does dry fairly quickly, but if I'm going to use my blends, I want to make sure it's really dry so it doesn't smudge. So let's stamp our little goat in the center there. And then we'll give him time to dry before I color him. So we'll set him aside. Now, whatever size centerpiece you make, you want to double it. So this is 2.5. And so if you double that, that is 2, 4, that's 5 inches. Let me just check my notes here to make sure I'm telling you that. Yeah, this square is 2.5 by 2.5 inches, okay? And so we want to frame it with this piece here. So this is 2.5 by 2.5, so this is going to be 2 3/4 by 2 3/4. And so you want to double that. So 2 3/4 and 2 3/4, you end up with 5.5 by 5.5. And that is the size of the backing piece. This piece here is going to be 5.5 by 5.5. And we're going to cut it on the diagonal and score it, okay? So this is 5.5 by 5.5. So what I want to do is bring in my trimmer, Stampin' Trimmer, and we're going to line up the corners. Now I've got a bit of lint in here. I've been cutting a lot of cardstock lately. So my husband actually made me this little toothbrush. He just kind of melted a corner in there so that I could just easily use this. Actually, I don't think it was for this. I think he did this to clean window tracks initially, and he made a couple of them, so I took one from him. So this is great for cleaning out your track here. Okay, so now I'm going to line this up corner to corner diagonally. Make sure you get the corners or the points right in the middle of the cutting track. And I like to bring my blade onto the cardstock. I don't like to pull the blade right directly down onto that corner because sometimes it can smudge the paper. It'll just wrinkle it up. So bring it in until it's into the cardstock there. Then you can go out and then you can come back in again. Okay, you're just going to cut this on a diagonal like that. All right. This half you can save for another bookmark because we're not using both pieces. Now you're going to do a couple of score marks in here. So I'm going to make sure I get my cutting blade out of the way, and I'm going to pull in my score blade, and we're going to line this corner here at 2 3/4. So we're going to go to 2 3/4, and we're going to score that because we need to make some folds in here. So you're going to score that like that, and then you're going to do it on the opposite corner. So flip it over and go again to 2 3/4 and score it again. Okay, so hopefully you can see this on the camera, but I now have 2 score marks. I have one here and I have one across. So this is a square in here. Okay. Now you want to fold and burnish these so that they fold nice and flat, and they should meet up directly in the center like that. Okay, so this creates your bookmark. So this goat is going to go on the front piece here like that, but on the back you're just going to take the other 2.5 by 2.5 piece, and you just want to seal the back. And when they pull the bookmark out, so I'll show you this one again. When you pull the bookmark out, if you wanted to put a little message on the back, you could do that. Okay? So I'm just going to bring out my Tombow glue, and I will glue this onto the back of my bookmark. I can see this as a great gift at Christmas time. You can send them their Christmas card and with a bookmark. Now something's going on here. I want to make sure this is right down to the bottom. It's overlapping a little bit. Let's give that another score. There we go. Try and center this as best you can. There we go, and I'll just hold that flat for a couple of seconds. All right, so there's the back of our bookmark, okay? And the bookmark is going to be going, it's going to have the opening at the bottom left-hand corner here. All right, so here's our little goat. So let's bring out some blends, and we'll color this little guy. I think I want to do some gray granite on him. So I'm going to pick out my light gray granite, and I'm going to color this little goat. I just loved the eyes on this little goat. So I'm going to color pretty well the whole thing in the light gray granite, and then I'm going to come in and I'm going to bring in the dark blend and do some shading. I prefer to start with the light marker and then come in with the dark. And then to blend more, sometimes I pull in the light one again. I think I'll change his face. I think I will do in maybe smoky slate. He's kind of fun to color. There's another stamp set in the annual catalog. It's got these adorable little zebras on it. Okay, so that's the main, and I'm going to pull in the dark now, and I'm just going to do a bit of shading. So I'll do a bit of shading beneath his eyes here. And I'm going to do some shading around his snout. Then I'm going to fill in these little bits here and there. A little bit of shading under his ears. And I think I'll do a little bit just at the beginning of his ears here, like that. Then you could pull back the light and then just blend it in, just so the edges are not as harsh. Okay. I like to use little circular motions. All right, so let's pull in, I'm going to pull in my smoky slate, or is this, what is this, black? I think this is the black. Yeah, I think this is too dark though. Oh, maybe it's okay. This is the light black. I'll just do his horns in the black. Maybe his little hoofs too, or his little legs. And he's got skinny little legs. Often when there's tiny, tiny, tiny spaces to color, rather than rub when I color, I just dot it on. Okay, now we need his face colored, so let's pull in my smoky slate now. This is smoky slate, yes, and I'll pull in the light just to see. This is a different color from the gray granite is more of a browny gray. So there's his little face. And we'll just pull in the dark smoky slate just to add a bit of shading again. There we go. Oh, I forgot his other baggy eye. He's got really baggy eyes. There we go. Isn't he cute? Now, there are no dies that come with this goat stamp set, and I did make another card, and I actually cut him out. It wasn't too bad. I basically cut around all of his fur bits, and then I just went in and did some little angle cuts. All right, let's get those markers out of the way. Okay, so he's now going to come onto the front of this. You could, maybe I'll sponge the edges. I think it's looking a bit, it looked okay on this card. Maybe I'll just do some sponging along the edges just to pop it out a bit. So let me pull in my sponges, and oh dear, let's see. This Pretty Peacock is one of our in colors from last year, and I don't have my in color, I didn't make a set of in color ink spots. I'm just going to grab a used one here. And these wash beautifully, by the way, these little ink spots. So let's just sponge around the edge here. Just to make it pop a bit more. I absolutely love this Pretty Peacock color. You know, it's so sad when we bring out these beautiful in colors and then they retire after 2 years. But when they do a switch to in the whole color family, sometimes they bring them back, as we saw with Blackberry Bliss. That used to be an in color, and now it's part of our whole family. Okay, I think that looks better. Okay, so now I can, I'm just looking for my silicone mat, which has escaped me for the moment. I always have so much stuff on my desk. Yep, I don't know where it is. Okay, we'll have to do without it this time. And you know what? To be honest, I have 2 silicone mats, and it's for this precise. Oh no, that's not it. It's for this precise reason. Is because they often go astray. Let me just open this other drawer here. Nope. Oh, I'm sure it will show up. So I'm just going to put some tape runner on my little goat and center him. Make sure, again, that you have your opening on the bottom left-hand corner here before you put your image on. There we go. There's our little bookmark ready to go. Okay. Now, next step is I want to make a bit of layering on here, and what we have to do is we have to create a piece that has a split in the middle. So I've cut this piece of cardstock, okay, and I also created a backing. Again, my measurements will be on my blog. Okay, now what I want to do is I want to show you this cool technique where you can actually, this is a cutting die, so it cuts it out. But with the use of the Sizzix embossing mat, you can actually just create an indent around the edge rather than cutting it out. And I want to show you how to do that. Okay, now I'm going to pull in the sandwich just so you can see what that sandwich is. And I actually did have to use a shim for this. So here's our platform. So you want your base plate without the cutting pad on it. Okay, you know this has an additional cutting pad for it, so you don't want that. You just want the base plate. Okay, then you need an acrylic plate here. Then this is the silicone mat from Sizzix. I've had this for, you know, just years and years and years and years. Now, we don't carry it anymore because Stampin' Up! Is developing a brand new cutting machine. So we don't sell the embossing mats. We did have embossing mats. So if you have those, you can use those. Just follow the instructions that came on the package to create your sandwich. But I've gone back to my embossing mat from Sizzix here. Okay, so you've got the sandwich, you have an acrylic plate, you have your embossing mat, you're going to do your cardstock, you're going to do your die face down where you want it to go. And I am going to put a tiny bit of tape on there just to hold it into place. Now I found that I needed a shim, but anyway, so then you do your next acrylic plate and run it through your Big Shot. And if you feel there's absolutely no pressure whatsoever, then I just took a half sheet of cardstock and made another shim. Okay, and you may want 2 shims. You just look at the image and see, you know, how deeply do you want it embossed. So I'm just going to go over to my machine now and run this through, and I'll be right back. Okay, so here it is, and when I'm just gonna, if you want to run it again, don't take it right off because you're gonna want to run it again and you don't want to lose your positioning on here. So I'm just going to open it up and see. So can you see that, how it's embossed in there? And I think that's deep enough. Okay, and so notice that because I did it on top of the silicone mat, it doesn't cut through. Isn't that cool? So you can do any number of, and the intricate dies are fantastic. So if you have a, you know, like a butterfly die, you can do that. So instead of cutting it out, it just embosses it. So look, you get this really fascinating, cool edge here. Okay, so this is going to be mounted on this piece here. Let me just set these aside. And then this little guy is going to go on top. But first, before we put any of this together, we have to cut a diagonal line in here, okay? So that he's going to slip into this diagonal line. So again, let me pull in my trimmer. so here's our trimmer. And you're going to use the cutting blade. No, that's a scoring blade. We're going to use the cutting blade. And so again, I'm going to put point to point into my trimmer here. I don't want to get my head in the camera, so I'm going to work down below here. So point to point in your track. Now, you're not cutting right to the edge. You're coming in a little bit, okay? So I'm going to just sort of eyeball that and see where I want to come in. And then I'm going to go hold it tight and then come down to the other end. And then have a look at it and see if you went far enough. Okay, that should do it. Now you get the split, and let's just make sure that that fits in there. No, I think we need that split to be a little bit longer. So let me put it back in, and if you put it back in exactly, we should be good. So I'm going to do a little bit more at the bottom and a tad more at the top. There we go. There we go. That works way better. Okay, so now it's centered in there. Okay, so that's how you do that bit. Now we're going to be sticking this to the frame here, this panel, but make sure you take this out because you don't want this glued. Okay, so take this out. You just want this back piece glued, and you're not putting any glue in the center and the back here. Okay, you're just going to put it around the very outside edge. So I'm going to turn it over and just put a little bit of Tombow along the outside edge here. Make sure you put it in the right direction. Let me see. Yes, it's going like this. Make sure you get it in the right direction for putting your bookmark in. So it should go from the top left to the bottom right. And use Tombow so you can slide this around a little bit to make sure you get a nice frame around there. Okay, once you've made one, you should be able to make quite a few. I think these would make really nice, either a birthday card, birthday gift, or for Christmas. Especially for all, or book club. If you're a member of a book club, you could make everybody one of these cards in book club. I know my friend Carol will probably love this idea, anything to do with book club ideas. Okay, so he's going to go beautifully in there. So now I can safely put him on top of my card now and just decide where I want to put him. I might center him. Even at this point I could decide and do a fold like this if you wanted to, which maybe I'll do for something a little bit different. So this one was a vertical or portrait, what we call a portrait style. Okay, that's portrait. Maybe I'll do this. And the other question is, do I want to put a little bit of ribbon in here? I have this fantastic linen ribbon. This came in all of the in colors from last year. And this would be really pretty somewhere in here. But now that I'm thinking about it, yeah, I could just put it across underneath there a little bit. Or if I did it vertically, I could wrap it right around and on the inside. But I think I like this for a change. So let me just do some design work here. I could just cut a couple of these and have them stick out the edge, or it's a little bit too thick and too stiff for a bow, so I might just do a piece. Let's see what I want to do here. Let's just trim that. And I'll trim the ends up again. So that's about the center there. So what I can do, because this is going to be glued on top, I can just use good old Scotch tape and just stick this in the center. And then, you know what? I think I'm going to put this on dimensionals. I think that would be kind of cool. So let's pull some of these out. Did have to use quite a few on here, but that's okay. Okay. Get this centered. There you go. Oh my gosh, isn't that the cutest thing? So there you have it. Two very cute fun folds, functional fun folds for a recipient. So thank you so much for joining me today. If you enjoyed my video, please give me a thumbs up. That would be much appreciated. And do share my videos with your other crafting friends. Come and visit me on frommetoupapercrafts.blogspot.ca, and you can subscribe so that you get notified whenever I create a blog post. And thanks again. Bye for now.